the press review section this morning. My name is Ajuluchuku Okabwe. I hope you had a delightful weekend because we also had something as beautiful as you probably did. And that's how we're going to be rolling this morning on Good Morning Anambra, starting with the press review. In no distant time, we shall be bringing to you the headlines on national dailies and then news making rounds on ABS websites. Don't go. The show is about to begin. We've been joined this morning by our analysts that will be looking into papers and the news making rounds on ABS website this morning in the person of Samuel Ololo. Good morning, Samuel.
Good morning, Najulu. Happy New Week to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Week to the Anambra.
Yeah, how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
All right, let's begin by bringing you news making rounds on ABS website. With the very first news we have Anambra Guba market traders endorse Soludo. Solidarity rally, Asatu youth back Soludo cautions against use of insecurity for campaign. Chisom Ejike of ABS weds Chukudibia Okoye in Oka. Biennial Women's Convention, others in Nuku, women exchange ideas on family issues. NDLEA nab widow for attempting to traffic cocaine using fake pregnancy. Wow. Sarah asks Tinubu to suspend proposed salary increase for political office holders. And these are all we have for you this morning, coming from the ABS website. Quickly, let's see what we have here. Solidarity rally, Asatu youth, back Soludo, cautions against use of insecurity for campaign. I think I saw a story of that on the media the other day, and then people were campaigning and saying about the state of insecurity in Anambra State, and then probably wanting to use it as a campaign tool. What's your take on such thing? If you want to govern a state, would you go on that route?
Okay, so it's unfortunate that we are always having this kind of conversation in Nigeria and then in our own dear state, Anambra State. I wonder why every normal human being should even think of using things as insecurity, loss of lives, loss of properties as yardstick towards attacking their opponent. In a society where we have a lot of things actually that we should be talking to issues, talking about the investment of the government to health, talking about the investment of the government to education, and the likes of it, looking at the Human Development indices. These are areas you can explore to actually hold the government at the jugular instead of going so low to the extent of using insecurity. So on that, I align myself completely with the Asatu youth, cautioning anyone who is using insecurity as a bait to discredit the present government and usher themselves in. I want to imagine how their government would be like, assuming, which I know is not even possible, that they make the state ungovernable, breed touts and monsters, and it becomes unfortunate that they can no more control them if they win. Just imagine how that kind of state would be like. So we totally condemn it. However, no matter what people do, it comes to a time where we would begin to face realism over idealism. So what we have just discussed now is ideal, what should be. But in real terms, we understand people just are so wicked and heartless. So that also then means that the present government, present administration, must be intentional about their investment in security. Beyond this investment in security, what is the apparatus for intelligence gathering like? No matter what the people do, the government, that is why you are in government, is actually should be well placed and well prepared to tackle this insecurity. And this can be done by the kind of intelligence measures that they have set up on board, it can also be done by how they have made the citizens have confidence in them. So much so that when they see some of these things happening, they can report them and be sure that their identity will be covered. That is how some of these issues would actually be controlled. Because if the people find out that if they do this, there's a likelihood that they are going to be caught, they will begin to think twice.
Okay, while they are thinking twice, we want to go straight next to the next story we want to talk about here from ABS website before we now begin to delve into the national dailies. Sarah asks Tinubu to suspend proposed salary increase for political office holders. Last week, the entire airspace was agog with, the presidency wanting to increase the salaries of political office holders. And the 70,000 naira minimum wage that was even proposed to civil servants has not even hit the ground running. Most state governors are not even paying that. And I'm sure that when the president says, okay, fine, increase that of the political office holder, that one will be implemented, swiftly. In a country where borrowing seems to be the norm, do you think increasing the salaries of people that barely do much as to compare to the people that are the economic workforce of the country is actually needed at this point?
For me, these are visible signs of the inequalities in Nigeria we talk about. Most times when people say Nigeria is difficult, Nigeria is killing dreams, Nigeria is not a fertile ground for the youth and the likes of it, they say they are not patriotic, they say they are pessimistic, they call them a lot of names trying to gaslight them. This is just a clear example. And I remember over the time we have always mentioned that the political space is too juicy for these political actors, and that is why most times they can do and undo to actually get into office. Yeah, not forgetting the fact of the money they spend before they get into it. So sometimes even there are many popular persons whom were one time at important positions. They made their money, went into politics. Because they did not win, they became bankrupt, and eventually when they won, they started recouping their money. So that is the society and the environment we have found ourselves. And because of that, Nigerians had that strong opinion that these political offices should be made less attractive. Is it, let it be based on part-time, and then the money attached to it should not be as juicy as it is and the likes of it, so that people who are going in there will be going in there to serve. I believe that is the strong opinion we have heard over the years. And this shows that we don't really have government that listens to the citizens. If you ask an average citizen, if you ask an average media personnel, if you ask an average civil society actor and the likes of them, I want to believe that this is the strong opinion we have always held. But the government actors tend to think otherwise. And this now calls for the kind of level of inequality we are talking about. So would we continue to battle with ethnicity inequality while we are battling with ethnicity inequality? We are talking about social inequality, we are talking about economic inequality, we are talking about political inequality. What is the space like for other persons, if not those people who have been in power? And that is why you see a governor from 1999 set, then still either in political, they are still senators and the likes of it, or ministers. That is what we have now. These are signs of those inequalities we are talking about.
To even add to it, talking about the inequalities you just made mention now, while this issue of increment was ongoing last week, what we were hearing rather was the doctors were clamoring for their own increment. What is it called? ASU said they will go on strike, that they, rather than giving them 150, giving them loans and then telling them 150%, 1,000 is what they will collect as gratuity and the rest of it all. Nobody from this political office holder has said anything about, hey, we don't even need this increment, or we need increment. So does it mean that the silence of the people that are actually going to be beneficiaries to this thing means that it has already been implemented?
So I was even coming to that because I know that's what it's going to lead to. A society where our doctors are living because of better pay elsewhere. And even those who are around, the money they get don't come regularly. When it comes, it is being consumed by basic needs. And you expect them to sit down, fold their arms, and clap at political actors who are increasing their own pay unsolicited. So the organization, the agency in charge of this, as always, it's unfortunate that we always want to pander to people in power, possibly just to continue to win favor. It is not acceptable, really. And doctors, what do you expect them to do? What do you expect us to, as well as other professors to do? Two things. Either they then find out that what they are doing as medical doctors or as professionals is not encouraging enough, it is now politics. They all begin to move into politicking. That is one likelihood that would come up. Or they would completely abandon the profession and either lose hope in the system and leave and the law. So either way, we are not building a healthy society. And we are using this opportunity once again to let the government know. Sometimes in other climes, you even see presidents and governors who, because of what they have gotten, say they have come to serve their people and they're not interested in any pay. Sometimes they send the pay into back to the government or use it for another reason. And we have been told that the current president, of course, is a very wealthy man, as we are made to understand. When the wife was coming on board, the wife said they were coming on board
to serve.
That they've already made the whole money that they needed to make. So if it is to the ministers now, we remember Wike going to a program with Rolls Royce. So these people have money already. I think the Nigerian system, the Nigerian people need to become more empathic, really. It will be surprising if you conduct a poll or a survey to find out that just yesterday, there are many families that went to bed hungry, in empty stomach. Just today, as we speak, there are people who are going through sessions. Is it kidney dialysis and the likes of it? That don't even know where to get the next money for their next dialysis. And looking at the society, looking at the economy, this is what a government that is true can sit down and begin to rationalize the resources of the country in these areas and not just packing it to themselves. Even if they do it, it's not still going to stop the contracts that they bloat. It's not going to stop the corruption that are attached to procurement and the likes. So it's unfortunate that this is happening. And when Nigerians are complaining, this is exactly what we are looking at, why we are shouting enough is enough.
Yeah, enough is really enough. Let's now get down to the nitty-gritty of what we are doing here this morning, talking about the Daily Sun as we delve into the national dailies. PDP power game continues. That's the banner headline on the Daily Sun this morning. Makinde-led camp holds Make Ma Neck meeting today. Party governors urge supporters to remain committed. Pro-Wike camp kicks. And then we have at the mast, Malema at NBA conference warns Tinubu orders against World Bank IMF loans. Mba, why justice sector reform is cornerstone of my administration. That's the rider there. Then also we have here, soaring drug cost push Nigerians to unsafe treatment. The rider there saying prices surged by 300% as experts warn on looming health crisis. All eyes on federal government's Medipool. ASU begins nationwide protest tomorrow. That's interesting. Branches to meet. And then we say federal government unveils debt control framework as loans near danger zone. Benue Assembly drama as suspended and Baga emerges speaker. Dajo resigns. That's interesting. 7 die in a Boeing road crashes. 6 died. 19 rescued in fresh boat mishap. This and all is what we have for you on the front page of the Daily Sun. Quickly, let's see what the Daily Times has for us this morning. At the mass of it, enemies within sponsored fake news campaign against NNPC leadership. That's coming from the group. And then we have NLC to RMAFC. Halt politicians' pay increase or risk national uproar. And then we also have here investors lose 2.29 trillion in 1 week as Naira extends losing streak. Security agencies deserve better working environment. That's coming from Akpabio. Olubadan designates Ladoja tax family heads on security in Ibadan. North Central Group demands presidential ticket from PDP, ADC, SDP. KS Kwara State government to prioritize Fulani herders' children education to end insecurity. Delta 2027, Omo Agege urged not to run against Uborowori. And that's all we have for you on the front page of the Times, the Daily Times newspaper. Quickly, there's this interesting story here, just like you were talking when you were giving your analysis earlier on. Soaring drug costs push Nigerians to unsafe treatment. It's really, really appalling. And at the same time, just last week we had the Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria. They were here and they were talking about both the orthodox and then the so many ailments Nigerians seem to be going through right now. And we're asking, what is the solution? Nigeria, they say, seems to be the number one producer of what is it called, cassava. And cassava is one of the important ingredients in making most of these pharmaceutical drugs. How come we are the chief, manufacturer, and yet drugs are still very expensive in this part of the world? What's your take on that?
It is alarming and really cause for serious concern for us, especially being an advocate of AAAQ and health service delivery. By AAA, I mean available, accessible, affordable, and then quality healthcare service delivery. One thing we have seen overboard across, especially at the primary healthcare center, from my perspective, what we have found out in the field, working with community members to improve access to service delivery at the primary healthcare centers. These are our realities. But the funny thing of it all is, if you go policy-wise, if you go to the government, their programs, what they tell you they are doing are wonderful. Sometimes you hear in Anambra State, you hear drug revolving fund, sometimes you hear we have the health insurance program, both at the state level and at the federal level. They tell you how wonderful it is. And most times, some of these programs are also impacting. But I think there is a lot more that is needed. And that disconnect is really in the area of really the citizens keying into the programs of the government, and the government understanding that they are not running a philanthropy program. They are not running a makeshift program. The government is expected to, while they are planning, plan for the generality. I've said this several times, plan for the generality of the citizens. Now, talking about planning for the generality of the citizens, how many pregnant women are having HIV/AIDS? Do we have currently? How many are suffering from tuberculosis? How many have malaria and the likes of it? And we know what malaria actually do to both pregnant women and children when they are giving birth to. So, when I sure that when the government say, as a government, you are running a program and you are calling maybe out of 5, if it is 5 local government that the state have, you say you are starting with 2, and then you do that for 4 years or for 8 years, and you say you have done a program. No, it should be, as a government, yeah, we understand that resources are lean. Plan for the 5 local governments, but begin with 2 and phase it and stick to it. How from 2 you scale up to 3 to 4 to 5, and then get everybody on that on the program. This is a way out. But if we continue to have these wonderful policies and not have the capacity to translate these policies into reality, and where that happens, and that is also where we have disconnect, is even when the people are complaining, the government don't seem to listen to what the complaints of the citizens most times. They take it that it is the political opponents that are talking. And another issue is this government vuvuzelas, people that I call their SSAs and their SS and the likes of it. When somebody just says, this is not working here, you see they go to social media and begin to attack the person, and they're confusing the head. So I think how they should be is, Pharmaceutical Council will tell you the challenges they are having around manufacturing and the likes of it. The government, the federal government, the state government, and the likes of it all, what is the level of investment that they are making to these people? What are their programs to support the manufacturing companies? That is the only way the government can actually take full control and make the citizens, when they go to the primary healthcare centers and try to access other kind of healthcare services, they can be sure that the drugs will not be too expensive. But what it is now, it is alarming. And even the orthodox and the traditional means, it's not even, it's also getting out of hand. So some people are sick because they don't have the money to even provide or to get from these traditional means. They are then forced to begin to pray their way out and wish that it's not happening. This is not the kind of, this is the system of today, and it's not the system we want for tomorrow. We want a systemic shift. And the government, to achieve this, should know that they don't carry that knowledge all themselves. They should also listen to other stakeholders and begin to play down on hypocrisy and sycophancy.
Okay, let's go to the Vanguard newspaper and the Punch and see what we have this morning, what stories they have for us. NBA conference, Sultan Mba Malema attacks lawyers on justice protection of poor. Gridlock, Lagos halts work on Ugudu Ifako Bridge. And then we have insecurity, concerned stakeholders decry killing of 10,217 persons in just 2 years. Yuletide, 131% surge in airfares to southeast, south-south sparks passengers outcry. Imported steel products drain over $4 billion foreign exchange annually. That's coming from the minister. And then we have economic industrialization in jeopardy as agric manufacturing sink, with riders saying as service sectors take driving seat, manufacturing loses 1.2 trillion in 5 years. That's coming from the report. FDI plummets amid warning investors' confidence. Rebasing exposes sector's structural weakness. Nigeria struggling with deindustrialization, says NESG. Manufacturing should contribute 40% to GDP. That's coming from ECBO. And then also we have a labor tackles federal government over proposed pay rise for political office holders. Intrigues as Benue Assembly elects new speaker. Falana to EFCC return, recovered $32.7 billion, $444,000 loot to NSIPA. ADC to Tinubu declares state of emergency in Katsina, Zamfara over insecurity. And also we have here Governor Abdul Razak declares war on kidnappers, bandits after deadly attack. Quickly, let's see what we have for you on the next paper, and that's the Punch newspaper this morning. PDP NEC gets zoning reports today amid convention crisis. Locals beg federal government as Osun Ondo federal roads crumble. And then we have sick and stranded. Presidential order fails to curb soaring drug prices. And that's what we have here as the banner headline on the Punch newspaper. Essential medicines still unaffordable despite tax waivers. Pharmacies struggle amid weak naira. Federal government shuts 32 illegal tertiary institutions. Pregnancy faking widow nabbed with cocaine in Lagos. Federal government begins phase 2 of 12,000 megawatts cement power projects. And that's all we have for you. Quickly, let's talk on this story that we have here on the front page of the locals are begging federal government as Osun. They have far bigger routes that are in deplorable states, rather than talking about Osun and Ondo. That's talking about locals begging. But then it's he who cries the most will probably get a reprieve. The state of Nigerian roads is actually deplorable, and yet you see government telling you about certain monies being earmarked for rehabilitation of this road, not even minding the 700-kilometer coastal way that they are constructing. What's your take about federal government actually manning what is existing rather than going to build a new one?
So ordinarily, that is what it should be. I remember growing up as a secondary school student, learning economics, and then we've been told scale of preference, and beyond the scale of preference, we've also been told opportunity cost, and the likes of it all. But in reality, this seems not to be what we are seeing. I've had access to several reports that talked about the amount of money in its trillions of naira needed to actually rehabilitate the roads in Nigeria. And ordinarily, the way these things should work is, yeah, we understand that the government cannot have this money at once. We also understand that there are other sectors that the government might want to invest in. We don't see the realities of the budget of this road, that the government is intentional in trying to fix these issues in the budget. I mean, if that the government is really interested in wanting to fix this road, so no matter the argument we bring up on board concerning the coastal road that you talked about, people might want to say that it's going to open up to economic development and the likes of it. Even though I hold the opinion that that coastal road, it is more of for individual purpose and for elites more than it is for the common citizens. But what we're expecting, or what an average Nigerian should have been expecting, is this is the total cost that is going to be required to rehabilitate all the roads in Nigeria. So we do our medium-term sector framework, MTF, FT and the likes of it. You see that, okay, in the next 3 years or so, we have put that we are going to construct this for year 1, that year 2, and the likes in year 3. When you see the government in that kind of plan and seeing them do it, you now know that there is hope. But with what we are saying, apart from each government coming on board and stopping the previous projects of the previous government, we're also having a government sabotaging itself. Every year in their budget, you see that same road that they say they have done still being budgeted. Sometimes the road that they have not completed, they now leave it and introduce another project completely. So this is the confusion we are talking about. And what it only shows is that we don't really have capable people, no matter what defense people want to build or give around it, that are in the driver's seat of the economy. Let's not forget that, as we have made mention, the economy is in shambles. We are borrowing money. So ordinarily, as we are borrowing money, we are supposed to be talking about cutting costs of governance, actually investing in areas that are going to be helpful to the citizens, that are going to improve the welfare of the citizens, that is going to increase in economy of the nation. But no, what are we having? We are having investments in areas that just benefit few. And I would also say many states now are building airports. I would make bold to say, check many of these airports. If not, they are just busy once or twice in a year, in a week. What happens to the other times of it? Whereas we have people who are actually should be productive, that if these resources had been channeled to them and well managed, monitored and implemented effectively, you would see the outcome in the economy, in the lives of the citizens, and everybody will be better for it. But what we are having now is just government giving projects based on brothers and sisters, and that is why most times currently what is on ground is you see a government giving contracts to companies that just opened newly. These are aberrations that should not be happening, and they're getting away with it because we Nigerians continue to defend them, and then the EFCC that is actually supposed to make sure that people who conduct financial crimes are punished are not punishing them. So they just continue to do what they are doing.
Well, let's see what we have this morning on This Day newspaper as we continue with the banner headline screaming, Atiku Abubakar, ADC leading potent coalition will shock the world in 2027. And then we have right as they say, we will upstage the status quo in a way that will leave doubters dumbstruck. Insists he will contest presidential election. This own statement insinuating he may not run. Says there is nationwide degeneration, unprecedented T3 under current administration. Then we have recapitalization, premium scales, premium trust scales, CBN's 200 billion naira minimum capital threshold for national commercial banks. And then at the mast, FFAC reconciliation, NNPC, FIRS orders remit 1.49 trillion arrears to Federation in 6 months. With rather they're saying no agreement on $72.2 million, 6.7 billion naira outstanding payments yet. Let's see what the Guardian has for us this morning. Malema, Africa's future dependent on political economy in Nigeria and South Africa. NLG seals pact with gas suppliers to aid production expansion. El-Rufai opposition leaders collapse Kaduna SDP into ADC. US, Obasanjo flee judiciary over perceived graft. NNPCL deducts 235.6 billion naira in 7 months for oil search in North Frontier basins. Really? Coalition ADC, one of looming security collapse, urged Tinubu to act. Federal government, 1 trillion needed yearly to sustain school feeding program. How interesting. And NMA, Lagos threatens solidarity strike over unpaid salaries and welfare. Borno Speaker resigns 48 hours after suspending 4 lawmakers. Okay, let's quickly see what we have on the rest of the paper so that we can discuss all. Next for review this morning is the Daily Trust Zamfara meeting, backlash against PDP governors. Katsina stakeholders seek new strategy to combat banditry. PDP's new NEC may decide on Wike orders today. And also we have 6 died, 3 missing in fresh Sokoto boat mishap. And then we have also here CSOs demand suspension, persecution of Kano officials implicated in corruption. Traders seek compensation over demolition of Alaba Ragu Market. Benue Speaker resigns, a new one emerges. Also here, the Nigerian Tribune is next. RMAFC's 2025 revenue review can fix Nigeria's fiscal imbalance. That's coming from experts. Justice increasingly becoming purchasable in Nigeria. That's coming from the Sultan. And then also we have here, NDLE arrest widow using fake pregnancy to traffic cocaine. Police repatriates wanted Chinese gang leader in Interpol operation. Aviation stakeholders express observations as federal government moves to cut down on air travel expenses. Reps hike in burglary. Steep hike in sugary drinks tax could derail sugar master plan, hasting jobs experts. That's coming from the Tribune. And last but not the least for review this morning, and we have here, that's the blueprint. Let's see what the sports story is saying there. NPFL, Katsina United 3SC lose at home. And then we have 150 million prizes to be won in UBA Super Savers promo. Embrega emerges new Benue Assembly Speaker. TICAD 9, that's AFDB, Japan strengthen ties, target 5.5 billion for Africa private sector. And then we have as an NBA confirmed, Malema advocates one presidency currency military command for Africa. Well, let's begin with that. Is that possible?
That
one
is
currency, one military command for Africa. Do we have the Africans coming, uniting on that one umbrella to achieve this?
a lot of persons have pushed for one Africa state, that let the different countries make up the component, let's have one Africa. And I know the Africa Vision 2070 talks about achieving one Africa. But for us to achieve one Africa, one currency, one military command, that is still an idea, if I'm to say. Let us analyze first of all what we are practicing currently under the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement, the AFTA initiative. The AFTA initiative allows Africans to cross-trade and the likes of it. how far have we gone? A lot of persons would argue that it's not, it's a gradual process with countries coming on board, and as they are coming on board, they are ratifying that protocol. But there are still challenges. I bet you it's very difficult for you to even move your goods as we speak. Sometimes even the likes of Aliko Dangote, of course, whom we know that is the wealthiest African, had also complained that being a businessman, they find it difficult to transport their goods from Nigeria to neighboring African countries. Sometimes it's surprising that you have to take your goods to another country outside Africa, and then from there bring it down back to the country you want to go to. That is the practice of today. That is the system of today. So I think there's a lot of conversation that really should come into having one Africa, where we now understand that our differences is not as big and as monstrous as it has been painted. And another question is, which I don't want to believe, but that is our reality. The people, like they have said, World Bank, IMF, that give us loans, yeah. Are they actually going to give us loan to promote one Africa, to promote unitary Africa, Africa that is going to be run on a single currency? So these are the conversations we should be having. So as long as Africans rely heavily on foreign support, both for things as little as human development indices, is it in healthcare? If they tell you the volume of funds that are being poured into Africa to support us, even in health, in agriculture, in education, you begin to ask yourself, are we even free? How much more talking about becoming one as an entity, having one currency, and then having one military command, knowing that if this happens, it begins to take us off from the grip of those who have interest. Is it political interest? Is it economic interest in Africa? So these are conversations we should be having. And for us to achieve it, I think our political leaders must begin to come together. I mean, now we have our Sahel and the AES, Burkina Faso, Burkina Faso, Chad, and which other country again, that have pulled out from ECOWAS. What is ECOWAS even doing as a region? What is African Union doing as a region? Over the years, we see different areas that have been fighting themselves. What assertiveness have AU even given to make sure that they control the scenario and the situation? Nothing. We will now see our citizens dying just like that, and nothing is happening, and we now want to use these realities to imagine the possibility of attaining what Malema advised. So no matter how interesting his advice is, no matter how valuable it is, I think it's the way to go. But Africans, both the citizens, the led, and the leaders, are yet to even embrace that reality, to say we are now on the pathway towards achieving one Africa, one currency, one military command for the prosperity of Africans.
Well, thank you so much on that. While we're talking about Africa having one currency and the rest of it all, as far back as when we were in secondary school, I remember vividly that Africa is the most naturally endowed continent. But at the same time, you begin to wonder, how come those endowments is not bringing, positivity? We don't have the industrialization as other countries, yet we have the raw materials here. So this Africa, one Africa, is a tall dream. I remember Gaddafi championed it, you understand, at the UN summit some years ago. Probably, maybe that was even what led to his removal, because the guy said it, and even said he was even going to commit funds to the actualization of that. So maybe the African dream is a threat to the global, reality of the way things are right now. If the West will actually allow Africa to actually unite in one front and then be as great as them. But then the question is, who will buy their goods if we can produce?
So beyond who would even buy their goods, let's not even, if you are talking about who will buy their goods, we are looking at the secondary issues. We are looking at, like we have alluded, and which is the truth. Africa has the highest base to economic, to natural resources. So, for example, chocolate that they consume very well, they have a huge market for it, and most times they also send them down here. Where do this chocolate come from? From cocoa.
Yeah.
And many of the cocoa they come from Africa. Is it Ghana? Is it Nigeria? Is it many of it all? So
Cote d'Ivoire, the rest
it's
of
Cote
it.
d'Ivoire, the likes of it. So this cocoa, they take them in raw, just like in many other raw materials. They take them in its raw form to their own place, their own country, process it, refine it, give it more value, and bring it down back to us. And that is how they make their money. So most times the foreign support they give to us is also from the profits they have made. So technically they are running their social corporate responsibility to us. So averagely, they would contest anything that would make them not to have that economic power. And the earlier we understand as a people that we should begin to take our destiny in our hands. I mean, relatively, looking at the world of today, the 21st century, Nigerians are doing well, Africans are doing well. We are breaking bounds, but it seems like there is this shackle that is holding us down in a way that you have to put in more energy that is much more than what your counterparts from other continents are putting in just for you to survive. And it does not just even end at surviving, because even when you have achieved it, you are still trying to maintain the status quo, because just a government policy, just a crisis, just a change of administration can crumble all what you have done. And in this kind of unstable environment, nothing is static. People can toil, make achievements, and die poor. And you begin to ask yourself, what did they achieve? Where are their investments? And it just be that just the insensitivity of their leaders actually crumbled them. And that is what we are seeing today in the kind of lifestyle
and leadership that we have in this part
kind
of the world.
lives Nigeria.
Well, thank you so much, Samuel. We can go on and on. You know, when we're talking about Africa, the birthplace of humanity, we never can say it all, because time will not permit us to. And I want to use this opportunity to thank you so much for being our guest this morning on the newspaper review. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And then we still have our discussion this morning on the discussion segment. And our topic this morning is the pay rise for political office holders. Is it a necessity or a case of misplaced priority? Our guest, when he comes in, will definitely talk more on that. Don't go anywhere. The show is getting hotter.